Welcome to Swish and Flick, an all Potter podcast.
Swish and flick. Everyone? Swish and flick.
Hello and welcome to episode 68 of Swish and Flick. I'm Tiffany.
I'm Megan.
I'm Katie.
I'm Snoke, I'm not dead.
Sorry, that threw me off so bad. That was a good one.
You're welcome. I got a good one for the next one, too.
Okay.
I think.
All right. This episode is sponsored by Erica Hoagland. So thank you, Erica.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Today we will be starting a new book.
What?
Huh? Yes. Guys, welcome to Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire.
The hot cup of fire.
The hot cup of fire. And we are discussing chapter 1, the Riddle House. So make sure that you have read the chapter and you're ready to dive into some details. And before we begin, Sarah has things to say, and so does Megan.
You would say that it could be a puzzler of a house.
Oh my. Guys, my weekly profit this week is pretty straightforward.
Oh, yeah.
Yes. So I put something in here that we should have discussed before we started recording, and I forgot until just now. But crimes of
The grime.
Rick Grimes is coming to Fantastic Beasts. No, I'm kidding. Crimes of Grindelwald is officially out for everyone as of this episode airing. So
Yay.
go see it.
By the time you listen, Megan and Katie will have seen it 3 times.
4.
When are you?
Well, we're seeing it on Sunday again.
Here we go.
So I guess technically, depending on when they're listening, we could have seen it 4 times.
True, my
How many times do you plan on going? 7?
Oh, no, a lot, probably.
100?
What is wrong with this bell?
It's not the bell.
It's not a good way to start out a book, Katie.
There we go. I gotta really hit it.
Do you wanna trade?
Also, I wanted to let everybody know as well that we being Katie, myself, and Sarah, are going to be in New York this coming Saturday, November 24th, for a meetup and to see the History of Magic exhibit. We haven't exactly picked where we're going to meet before we go to the History of Magic exhibit. However, if you go onto our Facebook, we have an event set up and we'll update it there.
Also, wow, sorry, that was really weird. If you aren't, because we do have listeners that don't do anything with really any of the social medias, and you're going to be there, just send us an email.
And we'll let you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So if you can't get a hold
Because
of us
we
any
don't,
other way.
yeah, otherwise I would have put it in here, but we don't
Yeah.
know exactly where we're going to meet up yet, so.
And we honestly might not know until like the day before.
Right.
I will be here.
Tiffany will be with us in spirit.
with the little Miss Woos. I'm not ready yet, guys. That's why I'm not going. But I'll be there in the form of a cutout.
You keep saying that, and it's not going to happen.
It's going to happen.
We'll see.
It's going to happen. All right. Well, this one's pretty simple. Let's go to the recap.
It's the best recap. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Last time was our book to movie comparison for Prisoner of Azkaban.
I don't know what that is. I've never heard of Azkaban.
It's Azkaban.
Thank you.
Excuse me.
Well,
It was a
alright.
hoot, as Sarah said.
Oh, wow. Remind me. I want more merch. I need more Swish swag. Swish swag.
All right. So we're going to the summary of the first chapter
Give
of
me
the Hot
the-
Cup of Fire.
Summary.
I also need to move my mic because I can't read it. All right. So we're going to talk about the Riddle House and not the Ravenclaw one. So inside the house, what? Are you laughing at me? Mm-hmm. I almost can't read, my contacts are all messed up. So inside the house, some years in the past, the family died quite mysteriously, and the gardener Frank is blamed, but there's no evidence to convict him. So years later, Frank the gardener still lives and works at the house, even though it remains empty. But not this night. Someone has broken in, and Frank goes and investigates. He hears some interesting and confusing things. He sees a scary snake, and the last thing before he is killed, he sees something truly terrifying.
What could it be?
I don't know.
Don't know. Oh, man. I've read from chapters.
We don't even get a description.
No.
Not yet.
Dude. Can we talk about something, though? It probably looks just like the baby Voldy
Well, there is
from King's Cross again.
There is a good also creepy and kind of gross picture in the art of Harry Potter that they drew, like concept art.
I don't have that book. That's the really expensive
Correct.
one. Okay.
That's the big one.
Okay.
Of a little baby Valdi and Nagini. And it's just...
Is that the one where he's like nursing?
Yes.
Blah.
Okay.
Awkward.
All right, guys. So let's go. A little bit of a backstory. So it's been many years since the Riddles had owned this particular house in their last house. But yet the villagers still refer to it as, quote, the Riddle House. It's not been kept up. Windows are boarded. Tiles are missing. Ivy is growing. But you could still tell that the house used to be majestic looking and proud. And I kind of wanted to pull this to something personal for me. When I read this time, it reminds me of what in my hometown we call the Curtis Mansion. It's this huge house, and it had multiple owners, but nobody kept it. Everybody said it was haunted. But it is just absolutely stunning. And it's actually one of the stops from the Underground Railroad.
Oh.
I know. Really, really cool. And it just reminded me of this because it's exactly like the same thing. People always talk about it. People talk about how they think it's haunted. And you can tell that in its prime, it was like the house. Go ahead.
So I didn't read your notes when I was doing mine, but I put in my section saying, like, did anybody have a house like this in their
Oh, neat.
town? Because
Yes.
we didn't have like we didn't have like one that was like, oh, it's like this mansion. But like there was this one house on our street that everybody was like, oh, it's haunted. We never see the owners. Like it's this creepy house.
Yeah.
Like nobody ever broke into it or anything like they do in this. But
Right.
yeah, we had a house like that where it was like the owners just were never around. Like you never saw them. So it was just like, oh, is it actually just ghosts that live in that house? And
Sorry. And I do want to point out, I didn't put this in my notes, but I wanted to point out that this is the first book where she doesn't start with the Harry recap, right?
Yeah.
The what?
The Harry recap.
I was like, what do you mean what?
It starts totally different. And that, to me, sets the tone for the change in the series.
I
You know?
like that. I like that a
Yeah.
lot. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm into that.
Okay. So the house, go ahead.
I like also that, right? You like, she starts off like Voldemort's back.
Yeah.
Like, you don't,
Yeah.
there's no questioning.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
know right away, he's back.
Like this book is serious.
Is it? I thought that was the last one. But true, like it sets the tone. I like it. I like it a lot.
I just hiccuped. Okay, so I have to start this out by saying I hated this chapter. From every
Still?
single... No.
Okay.
I like it now. But, like, every time when I was younger and I read this chapter and then I would go back and reread the series, I would always skip this chapter because I just hated reading it because I didn't like how it didn't start with Harry.
Oh, my gosh.
I wanted to get to Harry, so, like...
You're very picky.
I am. However, you said I like how she starts out with starting that it's Voldemort and he's back. He's first
back.
time I read this, though, like, you don't know if this is real. You know, because, like, then all of a sudden, the start of the next chapter,
It's him
you realize
waking
that
up.
Harry dreamed it. So you're like, hold on. Did this really happen or didn't it happen?
Yeah.
And it's kind of confusing. And I like that she does that, too.
So I have questions about that, or do you want me to save it to the end?
Save it for the lightning.
Okay.
Do you remember
it
them?
down.
You
I'm
need to
gonna
write it
write-
down.
I've got a doc open already.
Type them down. I guess we should say. Okay. So this house had all the makings of like a muggle haunted house. The villagers referred to it as, quote, creepy because of something that had happened there half a century ago. Something strange and something horrible. And the event was still talked about in the village when gossip was scarce. And I said, this is like all the perfect makings of a ghost story. And just like any story that is old and told over and over again, the story, you know, evolves over the years. And so the whole truth isn't really known by any of the villagers anymore.
It's like telephone.
And we, and we know almost everything to do with that day because of 7.
Right.
But still, it is a game of telephone. But every version of the story starts out the same. So I wanted to read that from chapter because I don't want to take it apart and summarize it because it's really good.
Okay.
I'm just saying.
Okay.
50 years before, at daybreak on a fine summer's morning, when the Riddle House had still been well kept and impressive, a maid had entered the drawing room to find all 3 riddles dead. Here you go. The maid had run screaming down the hill into the village and roused as many people as she could. Lying there with their eyes wide open, cold as ice, still in their dinner things, the police were summoned, and the whole of Little Hangleton had seethed with shocked curiosity and ill-disguised excitement.
Well, I wonder if this is one of those like sleepy little towns that nothing really ever happens to. So as much as it's terrifying, it's also
think so.
Eat up the
exciting.
drama.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, they like that.
Yes.
Well, do you think they also hated the riddle?
That's what I was
Yeah.
also thinking.
Yeah.
Probably better than
Or, like,
other people.
Jealous because they got money.
Possibly.
Honey. Yeah. Nobody wasted their breath pretending to feel very sad to hear about the riddles, for they had been most unpopular. So I think that whole I'm better than you kind of thing really plays through, because you know what? Voldy does it too. And he gets it from his papa. Yes, ma'am.
I was just gonna say, like, Tom Riddle Sr., like, he's a muggle and he's kind of he's duped into this relationship with Merope, but he really is not a nice person. Like, she falls in love with somebody who really is super arrogant. He acts as if he's somebody who was raised with money, like the bad way, And
Very full of himself.
and I think that sometimes people feel sorry for him whenever they like hear the story of like how Merope gave him a love potion, and like you almost want to feel bad for him, like, oh, she totally messed up your life, but at the same time, like, he kind of had it coming. Like, he was just a jerk.
I don't think either of them are.
Neither of them are nice people,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
I think they're wonderful.
you
They're
would.
all great.
You would. Elderly Mr. and Mrs. Riddle had been rich, snobbish, and rude, and their grown-up son Tom had been, if anything, worse. All the villagers cared about was the identity of their murderer, for plainly 3 apparently healthy people did not all drop dead of natural causes in the same night. The Hanged Man pub in the village did a roaring trade that night. The whole village seemed to have turned out to discuss the murders. They were rewarded for leaving their firesides when the Riddle's cook arrived dramatically in their midst and announced to the suddenly silent pub that a man called Frank Bryce had just been arrested. What? So I can just see this pub, and it kind of reminds me of when Maurice runs into the pub in Beauty and the Beast, and they all stop. Yeah. So Frank Bryce was the gardener of the Riddle family, and he lived on the grounds in a rundown cottage. Frank has a stiff leg from the war, a dislike for crowds and loud noises. So I was talking to Sarah about this, and I was like, okay, which war? And I was thinking World War I. And then I also thought, are we going to see Frank Bryce and Fantastic Beasts working with wizards?
Oh, man.
Ooh, that's a good thought.
I would love it.
that would be an awesome tie-in.
Even if someone, like, you just
Well,
heard his
What,
name.
what if you just hear, hey, Bryce, or hey, Frank, or something like that?
Oh,
yeah,
man.
it would
And
be
you
a
know
really
what?
good nugget to put in
Yes.
there. Really subtle.
Ooh, I like it a
chills.
lot.
I really wouldn't be surprised.
I wouldn't
I
either.
wouldn't be either. But that's also something like not everyone's going to remember.
Yep.
Yes.
So like it's going to go over a lot of people's heads, and a lot of people are going to be like, yes.
Yeah, and then the dislike for crowds and loud noises made me also wonder if he has PTSD from fighting in the war.
I'm sure.
That makes sense.
Yeah, so
Because everyone even says,
No, you're good.
Frank had a tough war. So
Yeah.
he's been through some stuff.
yeah. I have a soft spot for Frank.
Me
I
too.
like him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Me too.
I really enjoyed this chapter reading it now.
And I like how he like defends that house. You know what I mean?
And he like doesn't leave his post.
He's a
Like,
good
that's
guy.
very- yeah.
He's
yeah.
a quality dude.
He's loyal.
Yes. So Frank has a little bit of a bio on Pottermore. If you look him up, it just says the gardener of the Riddle House in Little Hangleton. And it just kind of brings up, how do you pronounce this? Priori incantatum? Incantatum? Yeah. So, and then there's just little excerpts from later on in Hot Cup of Fire. It's very short. So the cook from the Hanged Man pub in the village told his story with the help of some drinks that were purchased by the crowd in the pub. So I wanted to read just a little bit of that. Always thought he was odd, she told the eagerly listening villagers after her fourth sherry. Sherry, also, shout out to Trelawney. Unfriendly like. I'm sure if I've offered him a couple once, I've offered it 100 times. Never wanted to mix, he didn't. Ah, now, said a woman at the bar. He had a hard war, Frank. He likes the quiet life. That's no reason to. Who else had a key to the back door then, barked the cook. There's been a spare key hanging in the gardener's cottage far back as I can remember. Nobody forced the door last night. No broken windows. All Frank had to do was creep up to the big house while we was all sleeping. The villagers exchanged dark looks. I always thought he had a nasty look about him. Right enough, grunted a man at the bar. War turned him funny, if you ask me, said the landlord. Told you I wouldn't like to get on the wrong side of Frank, didn't I, Dot? Said an excited woman in the corner. Horrible temper, said Dot, nodding fervently. I remember when he was a kid. And I wrote in the doc, nasty rumors spread this way. PSA, don't be like this.
Well, and I wrote little notes in my book, and I was like, gosh, mob mentality. And then I said, a lot of people suddenly have something to say, like a lot to say. And, this happens, like where...
They wouldn't have said that otherwise, and I'm sure you didn't think that otherwise. You're playing it up.
Well, and that, and like, the alcohol is going to give you a lot of liquid courage.
Yep.
And you're probably just like, oh, well, they're saying this, so I'm just going to agree. And that's how... those little nuggets of something that might be true or might not be true just snowball into something completely different. And right now they're condemning the man before he's even said a word.
Just live a drama for your life, guys. You don't need drama. Why would you want it?
Yep.
Why? There's no reason.
Drama makes the world go round.
Drama's for nerds.
But we are nerds.
It's a quote from Teen Mom. I'm not embarrassed.
I'm embarrassed for you.
All right. So everyone in the village now believe Frank to be guilty of the murders of the Riddle family. So just like that, in one,
awful.
probably in an hour,
And
Yeah.
it's one of those things where you can see it nowadays where someone gets like wrongfully accused of something and say they're legitimately innocent. They go to court. It's proven that they're innocent. People are going to be like, no, I still think that's true. Or I read an article online and it
Gossip
said this.
sucks.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it's, as try as you might, you're not going to be proved. Like they're going to still believe what they want to believe.
Yeah.
Unfortunately.
Very true. People like to think that they understand everything about a situation.
And people
No,
love to be
you
judge and
don't
jury.
know.
Yeah.
Love to be judge and
And
jury.
what's great is they'll read the title of an article and be like, well, I read an article. No, you didn't. You read a title of an article.
Yep. I love that.
It's just...
That's very internet. Mm-hmm. All right. So in the neighboring village of Great Hangleton, Frank was being questioned by the police. He was saying that he was innocent and that the only person he had seen that day was a, quote, teenage boy, a stranger, dark-haired and pale. Hello, teenage Voldy.
Mr. Tom Riddle.
Crazy. First time you read that, you obviously you don't know.
Yeah.
Yep. It's crazy.
So later on, an autopsy report came back and Frank got a lucky break because the bodies were perfectly normal, but they're dead. They had not been poisoned, stabbed, shot, strangled, suffocated, or even appeared to be harmed at all. And I said, these are all really great signs of the killing curse. There's nothing wrong with you except you're dead.
I wrote, and I think this is so true, like as much as magic is like, for lack of a better term, so wonderful and magical, it's so scary.
Yeah.
Yes.
Like what you can't do anything, especially when you read a couple chapters later when Moody's talking about the 3 unforgivable curses. It's scary. And then I said, and so is family. But like, it's just crazy. And that they were frightened to death at the end.
Yeah, so the only abnormal thing that the bodies had shown, besides being dead, was that they all had a, quote, a look of terror upon his or her face.
Like, I wonder what he did. Like, did he do something beforehand to like scare them? And then killed them?
Here's the thing. He doesn't do anything without dramatic effect to make himself feel really built up before he does something. And everything he does has like a huge purpose for him. It's a really big deal.
Right.
I guarantee you he gave them some kind of a speech
Or like a
beforehand.
show.
Let me tell you what I'm all about. Let me show you what I can do.
And who I am to them.
Who was tortured, who wasn't.
He's not going to know
Yes.
that.
They
They're
won't
not going to
know.
know he's family.
Oh my god!
Oh, I guarantee he spilled everything before he
Yes.
killed them.
Ooh, I like that
Yeah.
idea.
In our live
Taylor
chat right now.
Says he looked exactly like his father. That probably was shocking too.
Oh, yeah. And I mean, he's walking in there and he's probably like, "What's up, Dad?"
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I
never
guarantee.
thought of that.
Yeah, everything was probably a huge theatrical show before he killed them.
Do you think that he planned it for a while? Like, I'm gonna
yeah.
write a script.
Well, everything think about the things that he does. Think about the importance of every Horcrux that he's made.
Yeah.
They all have super big meanings to them. I mean, I'm starting to understand him a little bit more. Like he just wants to be so high on a pedestal and think that he is so much better than everybody else that he continues to lie to himself constantly.
Well, he's compensating for the fact that he's not
Nothing.
a pureblood.
Right.
You're
He's
just-
nothing in his own eyes.
Yeah.
You know what I mean about
Yeah,
purebloods, half-bloods, whatever, muggleborns. He's if he were to look at someone like him, he would call them scum.
Yes.
So he's trying to fix that. in
Do
himself.
all of his followers know that he's half blood?
No, they don't, because at Malfoy, is it Malfoy Manor? Harry says something about it to Bellatrix, and she like tells him to shut up because like he's lying. Because Harry's trying to say, like, you guys are following someone who's a half-blood.
She's probably thinking, I did not just have a half blood's baby. What?
Yeah. He never talks about his heritage. He never talks about it.
Well, because he's ashamed.
Right.
I mean,
Right.
he has. There's no there's no reason.
It
to
reminds
be.
me of Umbridge.
Yeah.
Yes.
Lying about what is Sluin, the locket.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay, so how do 3 people get frightened to death?
By Voldemort.
We know. With no evidence, Frank was let go. Hooray, Frank!
Yay, Frank.
However, the the police in Great Hangleton and the villagers from Little Hangleton still all believe that Frank was the one who did them in. So the Riddles were all buried in the graveyard that was attached to the Little Hangleton Church. And this is a very important spot.
Just a little bit.
We'll get there later on, but there are a couple of articles on Pottermore. It says the graveyard where the Riddle family are buried
Sorry.
and the site of Lord Voldemort's return.
Yep.
And there's a really, really neat illustration along this. It even has
Pottermore's illustrations are bomb.
they are. It even has like a little teeny fact file. It says, where in the world? Little Hangleton. Resident or owners, the Riddle family. They're residents of this graveyard. Significant events that took place here. Voldemort's rebirth and Cedric Diggory's death. The rebirth, that word gets me.
Yeah, I know.
That word really gets me. Rebirth.
we'll talk about
Oh, we're going to talk about it. There's also a behind the scenes of Little Hangleton's graveyard. It says, as the setting for arguably the most pivotal scene throughout the Harry Potter series, Little Hangleton Graveyard had to be suitably iconic. And there's a still from Goblet of Fire. Oh, and it says extracted from Harry Potter, magical places from the films. Apparently that's a book. I don't really want to read a whole lot out of this because we're going to do it again when we get to this point in the chapter.
Fair enough.
Yeah, I'm going to save this, but that is there if you want a little preview of what we will be discussing later on. So back to the Riddle House. Other families moved in and occupied the house, but none of them stayed very long. I wonder why.
I want to add here as well that, so like imagine if families had stayed, because at this point in the story, Voldemort knows that this is where he wants to be. So like any family that would have stayed there, like he would have killed them too. I would assume.
So here's my question though, because the next thing says like the wealthy man who owned the Riddle House these days. Like, who was that wealthy man?
We don't know. I tried to find it.
I know, like
Yeah,
do you-
it's literally just they say
He's
they
not
say that it's a
alive,
muggle.
though.
They say it's a wealthy muggle who literally does just own it for tax purposes because
I know that that's what it says, but
I did. Well, I mean,
what about Tom Riddle owning it?
but is he wealthy?
I don't know. But like I'm thinking
But think about-
he's not alive though. Oh, I guess he could be.
Well, Tom
but he's
Riddle,
gonna-
the name Tom Riddle, like, well, I don't know.
Pseudonym though.
Interesting. What were we talking before I asked?
Well,
that?
I was gonna say that I guarantee the reason why no one ever stayed was because Voldemort probably did something to the house.
I would agree.
yeah,
Also
that's a good
thinking
idea.
like
kind of like a dusty Dumbledore.
but what if they didn't like what if they bought the house not
Old
knowing
Dusty.
3 people were killed there and then they move in and find that
Murder
out
house.
and then they're like bye.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like American Horror Story.
Because I don't know there's always like there are laws about that, but I don't know what they are in the UK and I know in the United States, there are some certain laws that, like, if it's
You have to
public
disclose
knowledge, it
that?
depends. If it's like public knowledge, you have to, but if it's not, then you don't.
Right.
If someone died there, it's like weird. Every state I think is different.
Yeah.
But
Plus, even if they have
Yes.
that law now, they might not have then.
correct.
Right.
Yes. Yeah.
You know?
What if he had a portrait there that he could
Oh.
like look through?
Watch it.
Yeah.
Or maybe like he could even like Imperio the people and have him go crazy, and then they're like, I have to get out of this
just
house. Like
seeing
think it's like
stuff.
haunted or something. Yeah. Like
Lots
spell
of
up some
things.
moving portraits or something.
Fire
Or,
anything.
Yeah.
Voldemort doesn't care about using the Imperius Curse.
yeah.
He uses it in this book.
So yeah, who knows? Let us know what you guys think.
Yes, spinach.
What?
Let us.
Let us know what you think.
Let us know.
And then you just said, yeah, spinach. It's not
because I could never think of any good ones. So I just said spinach every time.
Tiffany, your puns are spinach out of control.
All right.
That's like the best spinach one that I know.
But it does say that the owners had a nasty feeling about the place. So
yeah, I'm sure it's full of dark magic because
Yeah.
people were killed there.
I wonder if he like frequented that like after he like did he like I don't know.
I wouldn't be
Did he like
surprised.
go there when he like worked at Borgin and Burke's or like store stuff there or some I don't know.
I bet you that he would have like an odd obsession with it. You know what I mean?
But
Yeah.
the Riddles still lived there at that point. Right? Whenever.
I'm talking about after he killed him.
But like, what if he would go back because he has like that obsession with like this is my family and
Checking on it.
I hate that I'm part of it, but like
How often do you think he checked on the Horcrux in the cave? Do you think he ever
every
frequented
fortnight
that? I'm done.
he would sing lullabies for it to go to sleep.
Oh my gosh. So a wealthy man bought the house, like we said, but never did anything with it. He continued to pay Frank for his gardening, and Frank was nearing 77 years old. He was very deaf, and his leg was stiffer than ever, and he was getting too old to do his gardening job properly as much as he tried, and that breaks my heart. I also looked up Little Hangleton on the Harry Potter lexicon. It just says small village located somewhere in Yorkshire or Lancashire. Is that Lancashire? Lancashire? How do you say that?
Lancashire.
Lancashire? Is it Shire?
Lancashire?
So is this a real place?
No.
No.
I tried.
Well, there is a Hangleton. I didn't know if it was like if she.
Maybe it's like a play on it.
Could be.
Like, Hangleton is like the actual city, but
And then she just split it
like
up.
a little
Yeah.
little village.
because
or
it said
something.
Yeah.
little and great, right?
Because every time I would try and look it up, it would be like a place in Harry Potter, and I'm like, that's not what I'm looking for. I know it is.
It is, but like no, it's not. They wouldn't get real time life. The internet doesn't know us like that.
Right. But I don't know where this is said. It said Little Hangleton is found about 6 miles from its neighbor Great Hangleton. It's the location of the Riddle House where Tom Marvolo Riddle killed his father, his father, and grandparents in the summer of 1943. Location of the graveyard where Voldemort is regained his body. I like Rebirth better.
Yes,
Yeah.
it's a little bit darker. If you're
Yeah.
really,
Have
really.
you guys started or watched any of the Sabrina show on Netflix?
Yeah.
Yes.
I
The
don't.
one?
I don't care for it.
Oh, really? I enjoy it.
It's a lot
but
darker.
Oh,
They
yeah.
call it like her rebirth. Like her baptism. Is
And they
like
also
the
call
rebirth.
him the Dark Lord, and I
Yeah.
cannot
Yeah,
handle it,
no,
so I'm like,
honestly-
but you're not talking about Voldemort, so don't.
Literally, that's why.
He's the Dark Lord.
No, it is because I was like, and then it says nearby on a hillside was the Gaunt house, wherein lived the Gaunt family, the last remaining descendants of Salazar Slytherin. So and then
That's
it just
actually not true. It's
all right.
Well,
get over
at
it.
that point in time, it was. They didn't have any children yet.
yes,
what's her name? Delphi.
They're gonna
Delphi.
slither into the Muggle life.
You're weird. And it goes through the inhabitants. So basically, like the maid, the cook, the landlord, Dot, Cecilia, whatever. Well, all those people in the pub. And so Dot. Well, that's all for the Gryffindor today.
What if
Tis.
someone was named Speck? Instead of Dot.
You
Dot
can
and
do
Speck.
that.
They
you
could be
know.
twins.
Speck and Dot.
My God.
Oh, triplets. Dot, Speck, and Freckle.
What about Mole?
Quadruplets.
You're making me so nervous with that book because you're gonna bend the spine, and I'm typically one of those people that doesn't care because it's a brand new book. It's bothering me.
Bend it. Crack that
Oh, I
sucker.
can't even. I literally just got chills.
I bought this book like
To
to
beat it
write
up.
all over it and everything for this reread.
See, but no, you do old books.
But I don't want to do it in my old books.
No, I bought.
That's the snottiest thing
I
you've
bought
ever
new
seen.
old books. I went to Half Price Books and bought new old books.
Got it.
Anybody from Timmy's grandma?
No, I keep looking for books with like inscriptions in it because I think that's cool, and I haven't
Yeah.
found any.
No more Timmy's mom.
No,
Grandma.
Timmy's grandma.
R.I.P. Possibly. We love you, Timmy's grandma.
Oh my.
All right.
All right.
So nowadays at the house, it's people kind of enjoy poking fun at Tom. So the boys from the village throw stones at the windows.
You mean Frank?
What did I say?
Tom.
Oh, I'm sorry, Frank. Yes, Frank. They ride their bikes over the grass right after Frank will have, cut it or whatever. They've broken into the house for a dare before.
Kids.
This
I know.
breaks my
This
heart.
is like,
know.
so
I know. Don't you want to protect him?
I literally
do. I
wrote
really feel for
a
him.
naughty word about them.
Guys, don't be like those kids.
No.
That's
Yeah.
ridiculous. So the boys know how devoted Frank is, and they found it funny to make him run across the lawn and yell at him. And that makes me really angry.
I said, so rude.
It is.
It literally makes me want a little cry.
So in Frank's eyes, he came to the conclusion that the reason they do this is because just like their parents, they think that he's a murderer as well. So they're like, oh, murderer Frank, let's go make life hard for him, which is just not nice.
No, it is not.
So the night that we get to visit the Riddle House is in August. And we know that this timeline does work out because of Harry's dream in the next chapter. Like, he really is seeing this happen, which is crazy. So this is like real time in the Potterverse. This is August. Frank wakes up because his leg is hurting him. And then he is down in the kitchen filling his water bottle. And he sees lights on in the house. He could see that it was like a fire that somebody had started. So he assumed that it was the boys, one of their pranks. They're in the house and they started a fire. And this also makes me sad. Because of what happened to him, he doesn't trust the police.
Yeah.
So he decided to just go to the house on his own instead of calling the police for backup because he didn't trust that they would actually do anything for him.
It's really sad.
But the door, he gets there and the door doesn't look broken into, which I wanted to point out that this also like aligns with the Riddle's death. There showed no signs of a struggle or anything because it's magic.
That's really scary, though. Like, if you
Yeah.
were a villager there,
Yeah.
like, these people died. Nobody knows how
Well,
they died, and there was no
know-
signs of anything.
A little bit in defense of the villagers that unfortunately do think that it's Frank.
Right.
And so they think whomever murdered this guy, I mean, realistically, or they're still on the loose. So since they weren't broken into, like, it could happen to them.
Right.
So since it was never solved is what I mean. I don't
Yeah.
know if I said that.
I don't know.
So I just wanted to like make the connection there that like both times this has to do with magic. So the first time that it was broken into is because Tom Riddle used magic to get in. Now again, it's broken into, no signs of like no windows broken, nothing like that. So again, it's magic. So we know from this that there's somebody magical who's in the house right now with the fire. So Frank goes upstairs quietly, and he said that he's thankful for all of the dust on the steps to muffle his footsteps.
Is this when we see the hot cup of fire?
No.
What?
No.
I'm kidding.
Oh my gosh.
It's the fire, actually.
And he sees the light flickering out from one of the doors that are open at the end of the hallway, and he starts to overhear the conversation going on. And I wanted to read some of it from the book. It's just so like weirdly gross. So there's a little more in the bottle, my lord, if you are still hungry.
Shut your face, Wormtail.
Later, said a second voice, this too belonged to a man, but it was strangely high-pitched and cold as a sudden blast of icy wind. Something about that voice made the sparse hairs on the back of Frank's neck stand up. Move me closer to the fire, Wormtail.
I literally wrote hate him. It's the hot place of fire because it's a fireplace.
The hot grate of fire.
That too.
Where is Nagini? Said the cold voice. I don't know, my lord. She set out to explore the house, I think. We will milk her before we retire, Wormtail, said the second voice. I will need feeding in the night. The journey has tired me greatly.
Okay, but I have things to say about that, but I'll save it till my part.
Well, I have things to say about it as well. Because
let's
we
say
know.
'em.
Well, no, more so like snakes can't get milked, correct? Like
I
legitimate
thought
snakes.
milking a snake meant like getting the venom from their
Venom?
fangs.
That is.
It
But
is.
But
maybe
in the thingy, maybe, I mean, it's her world. Whatever.
I'm gonna be a little bit gross for a second because I mean if you know like a cow or would it be a cow? More so like a dog. Like they say that like they're suckling from their teat, which sounds really gross coming out of my mouth. But the picture from Art of Harry Potter is literally like a snake with teats that
Yeah.
little baby Valdi's sucking on. So
Yeah.
it makes sense a little bit more now thinking that way because normal snakes don't have teats. That Nagini is a maledictus. If you don't know, sorry, spoiler alert for Crimes of Grindelwald. Oh, it already came out, so hopefully you saw it.
that makes more
But-
sense to me than ever.
But she's a maledictus.
Maledictus.
Where she
how
was
are
a
we
woman
saying it?
and
We have
it's
to pick
cursed.
away.
Well, I want to wait until I see the movie. Then I'll know.
Cursed into being a permanent snake.
I think, though, that the reason... So there's some theories.
Well,
Katie's
we don't
might
have to
talk
talk about
this.
them yet.
Katie might talk about this, but one really quick theory about how he does get this body that he has and sustains it is that it is a combination of unicorn blood and venom from Nagini. So when they say milking, it is the venom.
So not him
so it's like
sucking the
in a
teeth.
bottle, and it's like her venom that he's drinking because
that's
she's
that
a magical
theory,
creature.
correct?
Yes.
Okay.
She's a magical creature, as we know now. She's not just a snake that he has a
Well-
relationship with. She is a human who had a blood curse, who now... so, like, she has cursed blood, so she is more than human. You know what I mean?
Well, she was a witch to begin with, correct?
Right.
With a blood curse.
Correct.
And now, like, could she do it, like, by will?
Yes.
We don't
She
know
could do
for a
it by
while.
will. However, as time went on, there would be a time where she would not be able to change back.
Yeah. So that's if you don't know, now you do. But did you ever think that Nagini was just a snake?
Yeah, when
Yeah.
I was reading this, I
Yes.
kind of just assumed
I mean,
she was
I
a
just
snake.
thought she was like
that he had a
a
relationship
special
with. because-
snake.
Well,
I just assumed she was regular, but like there was a connection with them because he could speak to her, and I felt like that is why it was so different.
Don't worry, Nagini. I always thought you were special. Don't listen to these other ladies on the podcast.
Well, like, Crookshanks isn't a normal cat. You could say that about Nagini. Like, oh, well, she's.
Yeah, but did you ever
more
think
magical.
that
I
Crookshanks
didn't.
was a normal cat? No.
No, but I also I didn't really
Yes.
think anything about Nagini.
I mean, I thought it was
Sorry.
normal in the realm of the wizarding world.
Yeah.
I feel like if it's like in the wizarding world, the animals are different.
Yeah.
They're
I
not
agree.
just regular owls. They're not just regular cats. They're not just regular toads. Like to me, like I feel like if they're in the wizarding world, there's something special about them anyway.
Thank you. I agree.
Okay.
That makes sense.
Yep.
Lies.
Okay.
But yeah, we'll get more to that in my section.
So as the conversation continues, you hear mention of the Quidditch World Cup, which also aligns with the real timeline because it's mentioned at the end of Prisoner of Azkaban, correct? Mm-hmm. Because Ron says you'll have to come because like the Quidditch World Cup is happening.
Pour one out for POA.
Yeah. And then I just thought that it was funny that Frank like was trying to clean his ears out. Like, what is Quidditch? That's not a word. I just thought that was kind of cute. So like we know that Voldemort knows of the Quidditch World Cup and he wants to lay low because there's going to be so many ministry officials around with security and everything because they're going to be so on top of security with the Quidditch World Cup.
Yep.
Hold on, I just want to tell you a funny note I had in here because he says Quidditch. Well, he doesn't say he's thinking Quidditch, which was not a word at all. And I said, not to you, you muggle.
Oh my gosh.
So then they're talking a little bit more about like some sort of plan that they have going on. And Wormtail suggests doing this, whatever this is, without Harry Potter. However, Voldemort is adamant. Like we as readers of the series now know why he's so adamant about it. It's because he wants to use Harry's blood so that he can touch him again and break Lily's protection.
It doesn't work.
Touch you. It like works to a point, right? Like before he couldn't touch him at all. Like not even like shake his hand. He would, as we know what happened with Quirrell, he would just like burn and turn to dust and die. But now he can touch him, but he still can not get to the...
Did he turn to dust in the book?
He burned, didn't he?
He burned.
It burned him.
I think he burned.
Harry passed out before we knew what happened.
Yeah,
Right.
we don't know.
Yeah,
I think they found his body.
Yeah, I think you're correct. That's the movie is. I'm sorry, guys. So now he can touch him, but he's still like... It didn't work to the effect that I think he wanted because he still can't get to Privet Drive. Like there's still that protection around Privet Drive with Petunia's blood and Lily's blood.
Go there?
Honestly. So Voldemort at this point thinks that Wormtail wants to abandon him. And I wanted to know your guys' opinion on that. Do you think that he suggested that because he did want to run away?
I want to talk about how
He can read
Peter is.
Yeah,
He has every in his power right now. He could just abandon Voldemort and Voldemort would die. Well, not really because of the Horcruxes, but he doesn't know that.
But he's
his
so
plan
weak.
He's like, I'm
come to
terrified.
fruition.
True.
Wormtail a seer?
No.
Does he know
Don't
what's
give him
going to
that
happen?
much credit.
Yeah. What? I mean,
He did become an animagus.
yeah,
With help
that's
from
true.
his friends.
But still, no, because like you said, I mean, he could just bounce at any time. He could kill him at any time. Wouldn't matter. But do you think he can see the bigger picture?
I don't think so.
I don't think he can.
So why is he there?
I think that
he has nowhere else to go.
And I think that he thinks he's on the winning side. He's going to go wherever he knows he's going to be able to survive.
I need a comparison really quick here with Wormtail. And I don't know if either of you will get it, but Katie might get it and other listeners might get it. But does Wormtail not remind you of Eugene from The Walking Dead?
Oh, I don't want
It's over my head.
Yes. He goes where he feels at that moment in time he's going to be most successful. He's going to be safest.
Well, as Sirius said in the last book, he's going to follow the biggest bully on the playground.
yes.
So maybe the reason why he's hanging out is because he feel like he does have some power and control over Voldemort at this moment, and he is important, and that's what he seeks.
But you know what's so interesting, though, is he is the biggest reason why Voldemort is still living at this point in time because he's helping him.
Yeah.
Because he's essentially helpless himself.
Yeah.
Yet just the sound of Voldemort talking to him has him like shivering in his
Shaking.
boots. Yeah.
Yeah.
So regardless of
He's
like
like, he
he's
can't do
such
anything to
a
you right
coward. So it's going to be his biggest downfall is that. And he's not a good leader at all.
No, his Gryffindor trait it wasn't brave. That was not one of them that matched him.
No.
To snowball off of that, I think that because of that right there, I don't think he was going to abandon him. I think he really was going to go and find somebody to do this without Harry because he just doesn't have anybody else to follow.
And I bet you he, again, going with that and saying he's not going to abandon him, but he doesn't want to do this with Harry because he doesn't want to have to face Harry.
I agree.
He doesn't want to have to face, his so-called good friend's
Yep.
kid. I'm like, he's the reason.
That's cowardice, too.
Yes.
Yeah.
So he knows that like I'm gonna have to see him again, and he's probably sitting there. We know that he already is probably anxious around Voldemort anyways and terrified of him, but he's anxious of the thought of having to answer for
Face
the
Harry again.
the things he's done, his like crimes,
Yep.
you know?
Crimes
like he's
of Wormtail.
yeah, there's a lot of them.
And
I'd say they're worse than Grindelwald.
He also owes Harry anyway because he just saved his life.
That life debt, dude.
You know, and it's gonna come clawing at your throat one day.
In the form of silver.
Double bill.
So Voldemort starts talking about how his faithful servant will come to him. Says it specifically, where is it? It says, by that time, okay, come on, Wormtail. One more death and our path to Harry Potter is clear. I'm not asking you to do it alone. By that time, my faithful servant will have rejoined us. Faithful is italicized. Now, I think a lot of people, or at least in Harry's mind at this point, he thinks the faithful servant is Wormtail.
Right.
But it's not.
No.
And I wanted to point out a movieism here. Because we see Crouch Jr.
Yes.
I was just thinking, I'm like, we see David
Yes.
Tennant kneeling all by him.
So Crouch in the movie is in this room at this point talking to Voldemort.
And isn't he crouching?
he is crouching. Yes, Tiffany.
Buy a couch.
Very good. Oh. I think that faithful is italicized because it's a major put down to Wormtail.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
I agree.
This guy's faithful to me. You're not as faithful.
You're gonna run
Yes.
away.
And like I think that's like you're setting like a dig to Wormtail, and he's probably going like, "Oh God, like
Now I gotta do more.
He's more terrified
Because immediately after he says that, Wormtail's like, I am faithful. I am faithful to you.
Who found
Yeah.
you?
Right.
You know.
Who brought you Bertha Jorkins? And then Voldemort is just like, you had no idea what she was to me.
I need to find out what the heck happened in that forest in Albania.
A theory.
Dude.
Talk to me about it later.
Yeah. So
What? Isn't the theory with Bertha Jorkins?
Felix file. Yada, yada, yada. It's going to be a Felix file.
So I wanted to remind everybody what Trelawney's prediction was at this point. So it will happen tonight. The Dark Lord lies alone and friendless, abandoned by his followers. His servant has been chained these 12 years. Pulling this line out, his servant has been chained these 12 years. So
Literally.
we know that he is in. If you really pick this apart, Harry's not going to catch
I
it.
just got it too.
Harry's not going to catch it. However, because we've read all of these and we know how everything goes, it says he has been chained these 12 years. So even he was in Azkaban. Even when he left Azkaban with his father, he was still chained because he was under the Imperious curse by Barty Crouch Sr.
Yeah.
I didn't even get this till right now.
So tonight before midnight, the servant will break free and set out to rejoin his master. This is when Crouch gets out of Azkaban.
Switcheroo.
My mind is blown. You assume that it's Wormtail.
Yeah.
I always have until right now. I'm glad I'm not the only one.
I was today years old when I found this out.
So like Harry is always thinking Wormtail. So that's why we
Now
were
it's
always
David
thinking
Tennant.
that.
But now,
David Tennant.
do you think that this maybe worked for both of them, or do you think it was a
did.
coincidence?
I think that it was maybe a dual prophecy.
I think so too.
So I think that everybody's correct in
Because
their thinking.
the OG
Because he
prophecy is a
was-
dual prophecy.
Yes.
It's like
It's
the
whatever
surface.
choices.
Right.
It's the surface. Like the first one we hear is like, that's Wormtail.
Yep.
Yeah. Swim around in the pool. Get deeper than
Dive
the
in,
surface.
baby.
Crouch.
Dive in.
yeah.
Barty Crouch Jr.
Oh my Junior.
So it says here, the Dark Lord will rise again with his servant's aid, greater and more terrible than ever before. AKA, Barty Crouch is getting Harry to that graveyard to make this happen.
Can we R.I.P. his mom though?
I
Marty?
know.
That's
Sad.
some love.
It's a mother's love.
That's some love.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hold on. Why didn't he have protection? She gave her life for him.
Silence.
I mean, because actually, I don't know.
Can we episode title that? Well, because
Maybe she really didn't. Maybe she really didn't. Maybe she was forced into it. Do we know though?
No, it was her.
Are you
her
suggesting
choice.
she was imperious by Senior to do that? No,
No,
I think
because
she
or-
gave of herself.
What if she was
willingly.
like already dying and didn't care and was just like, sure, I'll switch places with you?
It's still giving
Wasn't
what
she?
little life you have. She was sad. Her heart was broken.
Right.
Well, she could have just died of a broken heart.
She was already dying.
That's what I'm saying. Like, so maybe that affected it.
It could have, but still,
Yeah, I agree. Maybe.
I'm just saying.
All right, whatever. I'll leave. Bye.
Yeah. Don't let the door hit you.
Okay. So, it says tonight before midnight, the servant will set out to rejoin his master.
Crazy.
So yes, that in actuality is, I think it's about both of them, both Crouch Jr. and Wormtail. However, the more you dive into that, the more about Crouch Jr. it really is, I think. So at this point in the chapter, because, Wormtail's trying to say, I am faithful.
Let me kiss your butt some more.
Right. So then
Does he have a butt
this
right now?
line is great.
It's little. It's a baby.
I will allow you to perform an essential task for me.
I will allow you.
One that many of my followers would give their right hands to perform.
Hello.
Foreshadowing.
Yeah,
That's
he
awesome
literally
this time.
is going to give his right hand.
write that. Where did I write that?
Yeah.
Crazy.
Yep.
So then Wormtail is terrified because he's like, really, my lord? What? And then Voldemort says, Wormtail, you don't want me to spoil the surprise. Your part will come at the very end.
The surprise is you're losing your hand.
But I promise you will have the honor of being just as useful as Bertha Jorkins. And because of that line, he immediately is like, you're going to kill me too? Well, not really.
First of all, why would you think he isn't eventually going to kill you? He
I
doesn't
know.
care about
Yes.
anybody.
Yes.
Well, because Wormtail is naive in that fact, I think.
Yeah.
Yes.
He doesn't want to believe that is going to be the outcome.
I'm
Because
just so
again, he's
faithful.
following the bully. He's being the bully with the bully so that he's not the one getting bullied.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Bully.
I literally
Right.
wrote, like, you basically kill yourself in my margin because
Yeah.
he does.
yeah.
With
With
his
the
right hand.
with the hand that Voldemort gave him, which
It's his right hand.
that is a little bit like Voldemort doing it too.
Yeah.
It's a very Star Wars thing of her to do, by the way.
It is.
Oh my god.
Oh, why you sliced off my hand?
And he gets a mechanical hand too.
He does. And it's silver.
I don't know why my hand has no thumb.
Okay. Oh boy.
Okay, so I went onto the Wiki and just looked at the Riddle House a little bit as well for this section. And I liked this line. They were talking about Frank, and it said he had no way of knowing that on the other side of that wall sat the true murderer of the Riddle family and the man responsible for all distrusting him in the village of Little Hangleton, nor that this was the dark-haired boy he himself had seen climbing toward the Riddle House that terrible day over half a century ago.
How much he's changed.
Yeah.
Boy.
So keep in mind that I just wanted to put this out there for everybody to keep this in the back of your mind that this is where Voldemort is for the entire book. This is where he corresponds with Crouch Jr. throughout the school year. This is where he tells Crouch Jr. to kill Crouch Sr. pretty much, right? Because he's catching on. So like this is where all of the correspondence is happening. This is where
Headquarters.
this is where Voldemort is living because he is still in that like baby body.
He's still in like that
Baldy baby body.
Baldy baby body. Baldy baby
Yeah, I
body.
was gonna
Baldy
say
baby
like,
body.
baby bottle
my-
pop, baldy baby body, baldy baby body.
What is Were you thinking of
I was
Puppy
thinking of
Monkey Baby?
Doritos.
Puppy
Yeah.
Monkey Baby.
Yes.
I'm sorry, everyone.
Bad
So this
Super
is
Bowl
where like
commercials.
Voldemort, Nagini, and Wormtail are living right now.
Oh, a little
during the
fam.
fourth
They're so
school year.
cute.
But like, does anyone else realize they're there besides Frank?
No, because and
I
as
guarantee
soon as
they
they
put
get
up
rid
some
of
charms.
Frank, it's like, well, nobody else goes there, you know?
Yeah.
So I also wanted to point out that this is the town that Harry takes the portkey to at the end of the book. So Voldemort points the house out to him from the graveyard, saying that's where I think he says something negatory about his father or whatever.
Sure.
And the only reason he comes back to this house, because he hates his father. He wants nothing to do with this place. He hates the fact that his Muggle family lived there.
But he's so much like him.
Literally only because he needs his bones. Like, that is the only reason why he goes to this place.
Them bones. I need them bones.
Dry bones and bones and bones.
Oh, God.
Bone of the father. Unwillingly given.
Flesh from the servant. Willingly sacrificed.
Well, really. I'll show you mine if you show me yours.
I hated that line.
That line.
I know. What was like the point of it? And then he like shoved his thumb in there or whatever.
Also, guys, I really and Taylor's pointing this out on our chat on YouTube, and I think I agree. I do think that she was dying with some sort of illness.
Yeah, but still.
I think so too.
But I think that might be why she didn't end up protecting him, because she knew she was dying. It wasn't like a last minute decision of bravery saying, I'm throwing myself in front of you. You know what
All
I
right,
mean?
I'll let you have it.
Yeah.
I'm just saying. It was a thought to think.
I'm just saying, I'm saying.
Was his mother a long bottom? God, my thumb really itches. Someone's a long bottom, at least according to the Wikia.
Whose mom does what?
What?
Crouch? Was she a long bottom?
What's happening?
Oh no, it just says Mrs. Crouch.
What's this podcast about?
Someone's a long bottom.
I do want to point out the fact that Martin is cooking.
Okay.
So I just want to tell you.
All right. It doesn't. The Wiki wouldn't tell me things. So.
All right, it's Yellow's turn.
Yellow.
Yellow.
Hello, it's yellow. So I'm talking about good old Bertha Jorkins to start with. Who is she? Why are we talking about her?
Oh, man.
So I looked her up, and there's actually like way more info than I thought there would be, which is
Give
nice.
it to me.
So she is a few years ahead of our wonderful and beloved Marauders. It's estimated she's born around 1958, and we know this because Sirius tells Harry that she was, quote, a few years above him and James. So we know that she's at least 2 years older, but no more than 6, because they were at school together.
They saw each other.
It's known that she's gossipy and not especially bright. She's a plump and scowling girl who tended to whine about ill treatment from other students.
Oh.
And we know that she's very nosy because in Dumbledore's memories, we see her at about 16 and she follows another student and his girlfriend into the greenhouses. Why? I don't know. Yes.
Which just reminds me of people in Harry's grade. Like nosy. Even other, like Rita. Reminds me of Rita.
Oh,
Yeah.
Rita.
Yeah. And in that memory, Dumbledore's seen being like, but why? Like, why would you do this? So, I don't know. She's just that kind of person. So after she graduates Hogwarts, she goes to work for the Ministry. She's bounced around departments constantly. We know for sure that she's worked for the Department of International Magical Cooperation and the Department of Magical Games and Sports. Yes.
Watch.
So you said before that, like, she's known to be kind of dim. Wasn't she not always like that, though?
I'm getting to that.
Okay, Sirius says that, right?
Yeah,
That she
yeah.
wasn't always like that.
So at the Ministry, she gets this reputation.
Oh my God.
Big reputation, big reputation. Ooh, Bertha Jorkins got a big reputation. And she's heard about you. Ooh. She's got some bad enemies, too.
Oh my God, that was good. She gets this reputation for being scatterbrained. But we have a quote from Sirius. He says, maybe she's changed since I knew her, but the Bertha I knew wasn't forgetful at all. Quite the reverse. She was a bit dim, but she had an excellent memory. Meg! No! Meg made some sound out of her body. She was a bit dim, but she had an excellent memory for gossip. It used to get her into a lot of trouble. She never knew when to keep her mouth shut.
I wonder if that's what caused her to.
Probs. Oh, yeah.
Probs.
Isn't there a theory, though, about, like, how she became that way because, like, she may have gotten...
Meg, I'm getting to that.
Okay, I didn't read your notes. I apologize.
Let her speak. Let us continue.
No, I like it because that's just means my research is spot on. It's good. All right, so we know that she vacationed to Albania in 1994.
Totally thought you were going to say Majorca.
Me too.
Ate a funny woke. And that's when she went missing. No one thought anything of it because apparently she's this scatterbrained dimwit.
How sad.
I know.
Yeah, I would not want to be known as that.
They just think that she lost track of time and would come wandering back. We have Ludo Bagman saying, but she'll turn up. Poor old Bertha. Memory like a leaky cauldron and no sense of direction. Lost. You take my word for it. She'll wander back into the office sometime in October thinking it's still July.
Jeez, so no one's that bad.
Hold
Or
on.
are you just like poking fun?
Can I get that reputation so that I can take long vacations and my work won't even care?
No.
Says the Slytherin.
I'll pretend.
Just burned you pretty hard.
Oh, I think it's funny.
Yeah.
So, yeah, not the case. She's not lost. And she discovers that Barty Crouch Jr. was being hidden in the Crouch household.
Barty Crouch Junior.
And then what? Rita goes, yeah.
Quick quotes, quivering.
You struggled with that.
You did not know which word you wanted to pick.
I really was struggling. Yeah.
They all try to be me and they can't.
Oh, I can be better.
No.
Oh,
Yeah, I
my.
can.
So, Crouch Sr. put a strong...
If
my
you
God.
keep saying it, I'm going to hit you.
He put a strong memory charm on her to make her forget this little nugget of information, and this caused her memory to become even worse. So now she may be the dimwit scatterbrain everyone has said she was.
I bet you that she would find stuff out because she's nosy and people would be like, obliviate or
Yeah.
messing with Joe mind.
So do you think that that's happened to her so much
Yes.
and that's why she
Maybe.
I wouldn't be
is
shocked.
the way she is?
Maybe don't be nosy.
Still, I mean, it's wrong to alter someone's memory.
Yeah.
I agree.
What if she is one of the authors of Gilderoy Lockhart's books?
I would poop my pants.
Oh.
That would be so cool.
Megan has the funniest look on her face. But I just it, we know that he uses Obliviate. It's his favorite spell and he's good at it. And
He's not good at it anymore.
well, correct. He's so good at it that he messed his own mind up. But yeah, that's an interesting thought that maybe are you going to sneeze? God bless you. But I mean, that's a good thought. It's a good thought. I think I thought.
I like to think thoughts.
Yeah.
I think I can.
Chugga chugga choo choo.
So during her holiday in Albania, not Majorca, she met Peter Pettigrew at an inn. And he led her to Voldemort. So,
Question.
How'd
Yes.
that go?
Had he met up with Voldemort before this, you think?
Well,
think
if he
so.
led her to him.
I
then
think so, yeah.
That implies
Okay.
yes.
Well, and I think he wanted Voldemort wanted Wormtail, I forgot who he was, to bring her. There's a theory
Her in
read
particular?
about her and Wormtail and Voldemort.
Well, I
which I don't know if
believe-
you're going to talk about it or not.
I believe she's the death he uses to make Nagini a Horcrux.
Yeah.
So I think he just wanted someone in order to make a Horcrux, but it turned out to be someone who was very useful to him.
Where's she at this
'cause
time?
he was able to get through those memory charms to get information out of her.
And she became so damaged because he used such extreme powerful magic to break that memory charm. He ended up just killing her because she was basically completely useless.
Is this
after
a dumb
that, which is
question?
sad.
There are no dumb questions.
Truth.
It's a fact.
Where's Nagini at this moment in time?
With Voldemort.
Yeah, I think
Okay.
because Wormtail has found Voldemort, so they're together. And I don't know how Nagini came back or came into the picture.
Yeah, that's
We
what
don't
I'm
know.
wondering.
I mean, we might get to
Are we
see.
I need to.
I know.
I mean, I don't know. I think that I think that
I need to see how that all works.
he might in my mind he's always been with Nagini after Harry killed him.
Maybe he
because we know that he
befriended
goes
her.
from animal to animal and everything.
Do you think he lived within her?
Maybe, but I,
bet
don't know
he
permanently.
did for a period of time.
I mean, she is human, so maybe it was strong enough, but
Yeah, I see what you're saying.
I don't
to not
know.
affect her like
But
other
I-
animals.
but
Well, the other ones weren't. They just weren't strong enough.
Right.
So
just
they would
wasted
die.
away.
Yeah.
But I think that she was always with him, by
Because
his
if we
side,
think
'cause
about how-
she is a faithful servant.
He was in Quirrell. Was it something similar And maybe she was much
of-
stronger than Quirrell. Maybe she survived him leaving.
Think of a snake with a little Voldy head on it.
I hope it was on the opposite end, a
my
two-headed
God.
snake.
Oh boy.
I don't know.
Interesting
Thoughts
to
to think.
Yeah. But because of the person that Pettigrew happened to pick, Voldemort discovers the plans for the Triwizard Tournament, and that his faithful servant, Barty Crouch Jr., is in fact still alive. Dun, dun, dun. So, fun theory from the lexicon, I thought. Someone wrote, they were kind of speculating what house Bertha would have been in. And they said that she doesn't seem clever enough for Ravenclaw, nor the type for Slytherin. And given that Sirius knew her fairly well, and she was bold enough to confront Crouch Sr., she may have been a Gryffindor. However, this is merely speculation.
I will say I like the idea of her being a Ravenclaw and being like
Knowing all the
inquisitive
things.
and knowing these things and then becoming dim-witted. After all those things. I like that.
I could get
that
behind
train
that.
of
Yeah.
thought.
I agree with that.
That's pretty cool.
I can see Ravenclaw or Gryffindor. I think it would just depend on more so how she was at age 11.
She
that
doesn't
we
strike
don't
me as
know.
a puff.
No, I don't see her as a puff.
No.
No, because she wouldn't be so gossipy if she
Yeah.
was a puff, I would guess. Because,
Yeah.
that's not very kind.
True.
We
Yeah.
kind.
I think Ravenclaw first, and then my second choice would be Gryffindor for her.
I can see either.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, next in my section, we're going to be talking baby Voldy theories.
Yes.
Yes. So, I think most of these were on a site I frequent called Quora.
Yeah.
So, they were talking about it, and a bunch of people came up with theories. So, I just pulled some of them because they were just kind of fun.
Do it.
So, this one's actually true, I believe. So maybe I'll save that one. Oh, no, I'm sorry. So someone suggested that the creation of this rudimentary body was a connection with the Horcruxes, as we see in the 7th book. The part of the soul that is in one Horcrux is like Voldemort's rudimentary body in book 4. So maybe somehow Voldemort gave Wormtail some instructions of how to bring that physical manifestation of a rendered soul into existence. Sort of like maybe the diary. I don't know. Some people were disproving this on there. They didn't like this one. Another one from Rashmi Kulkami.
sure.
They say, given the fact that Voldemort was destroyed the night he tried to kill Harry, this is the least he could do to bring himself to some kind of human form. For years, Voldemort has been, quote, less than spirit, less than the meanest ghost. But this was when he was all alone and no one to help him find strength, and thus could not manage to build himself something definable and identifiable. What he is left with is just a part of the soul, which has been split many times. And probably after trying to kill Harry, this part of the soul might have been the weakest of all. So there could not be any other better form for his existence, cannot be called human, cannot be categorized as ghost, just a small sized bundle of flesh with a tiny part of the soul clinging to it. So that's why he can't be
More
even
than a
human.
baby?
Yeah. Nothing. He's not even that. There's no word for it.
He's just gross.
Yeah. A theory from Brandon Lane. The only reason I can think of is because that is the best illustration of his soul.
Oh,
I like
that.
this one. When Harry brings back the Marauders with the Resurrection Stone, they all appear as perfected versions of their physical selves because they all did great things. When Harry went to Limbo, he also took a scarless, cleaner version of himself, and Voldemort appeared as a flayed, dying, childlike thing covered in blood and scales. This is similar to how his body looked in Book 4. This is most likely a link between your physical body and how your soul is presented.
Ooh, I like that.
So, as far as Christianity goes, when you get to heaven, you're supposed to be the best
Yeah.
physical
of
version
yourself.
of yourself. So that's how I'm pulling that, and we know that she pulls a lot from the Christian faith,
Yeah.
with the Trinity and the trio and blah blah blah. So I really like that connection.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that one might be my favorite. I have one more, and I only put this in there because it's strange. So Ron Garrett says, one sicko supposition would be that once Voldy and Peter got together after Prisoner of Azkaban, Peter brought Nagini to Voldemort, and through Peter, magically impregnated Nagini with some essence of Voldemort. Then Voldemort possessed the newborn and accelerated its growth to accommodate his desires. We do know that the baby Mort requires milking of Nagini. And this is when I realized, because I looked that up, and that does mean the venom.
Yeah.
So, I will accept that. And that does play into my next thing, so go ahead.
I don't know if you're going to talk about this part, but there was MuggleNet did like a whole thing about Nagini and Voldemort article, and I guess on an episode of their podcast, they were talking about a theory they have that Wormtail and Bertha Jorkins
that's
got
what I was
together.
thinking.
I'm not going to talk
He
about this, so go ahead.
Impregnated her.
No, that's literally what I was. That's
So
that's not a theory that I've heard because I don't really.
Well, someone
venture
posted
out.
the article in our group, and I was like, they're like, it's really kind of gross, but like, you need to read it. And they were like, the guy writing was even like, I'm grossed out by writing it. That possibly Baby Mort was created by Peter impregnating Bertha Jorkins and then Voldemort possessing the fetus.
Just to have some form.
Yeah, because he was nothing, right? He was barely anything.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, that kind of makes sense.
Yes.
Yeah.
And like, the more you think about it, you're like, no,
It's
like
disgusting.
Yeah.
Especially because I'm sure that they probably, if this is true, hexed Bertha so she wouldn't even know what was going on, which is wrong
that's
on
rape?
however many levels. Yeah.
Well, I mean, what if he like charmed her? I mean, I know that Wormtail's not that charming, but
I mean, you can with magic, you can with a potion.
Well, that's true.
Yeah.
And it says in the article, it's like, up until now, I always conflated the two statements about Nagini, a little help for my dear Nagini and the snake venom Nagini provided, to mean one and the same thing. However, now a different interpretation comes to mind. Is the little help something in addition to providing venom? Like, I wonder, because then it says we need to know more about the reproductive logistics of a maledictus, because that's also talking about possibly like Nagini getting impregnated.
Right.
Because it says implying that a child of the maledictus would also initially be human and then transform into an animal. Like, and what we don't know is whether or not that applies to only a maledictus giving birth while in human form, or regardless of whether the maledictus is in animal form or human at the time. So, I mean, she could possibly still have a humanoid baby going along with that. So that's one theory with the Nagini bit, or Bertha Jorkins having Wormtail's spawn.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's like really sad and like, but again, if you really think about it, it makes sense.
I think they just needed a witch, and she was the witch that was there.
And it turned out that she had all this information that was.
I think that was by
prudent to
accident.
him anyway.
I think that was by accident.
Oh, yeah. I agree.
I think
They were like, woohoo, we hit the jackpot with this one.
They genuinely did for their
Because
nasty
again,
plans.
You know, did we say she was older than Severus? I mean, I guess he'd be
She
older
is
than
older.
him too. But like not by a crazy amount. And they're
Only a few
young.
years.
They're in their early 30s. So she's at least in like muggle years, still able to have kids, and probably in wizarding years, because we know that their lifespan is longer. They probably have a longer period of being able to have kids. Not that it really matters. They probably wouldn't have cared what the kid looked like or what the kid was like. They didn't care about the genetics. They just needed a vessel.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, sick, but I could see it.
True.
What we do know, and maybe Bertha was still a part of that, we don't know, but what we do know for sure is Voldemort used what is known as a rudimentary body potion, for lack of what it actually might be called. Right. So this seems to be something he invented himself. The primary ingredients of this potion are unicorn blood and Nagini's venom. Wormtail prepared this potion under the direction of Voldemort. So here's a quote from Voldemort. Wormtail's body, of course, was ill-adapted for possession, as all assumed him dead and would attract far too much attention if seen. However, he was the able-bodied servant I needed, and poor wizard though he is, Wormtail was able to follow the instructions I gave him, which would return me to a rudimentary, weak body of my own, a body I would be able to inhabit while awaiting the essential ingredients for true rebirth. A spell or two of my own invention, a little help from my dear Nagini, a potion concocted from unicorn blood and the snake venom Nagini provided, I was soon returned to an almost human form and strong enough to travel. Yes.
Like, I know that just going back a little bit, I know that rebirth can like be like reinventing yourself, or but I really think she chose her words very carefully when it came to this,
it's
and
Joe.
I feel like it literally was a birth.
Yeah.
And now I'm done talking about it for now.
Just like kind of nasty to think about.
Yeah.
So let's remember about unicorn blood. It will keep you alive even if you are an inch from death, but at a terrible price. You have slain something pure and defenseless to save yourself, and you will have but a half-life, a cursed life from the moment the blood touches your lips. But Voldemort probably doesn't care because he thinks he's going to be master
got
of
bigger
death.
plans.
He thinks it can't touch him. You know what I mean?
And he's also been drinking it before, essentially.
Right,
You know,
right.
if it's anything like if him being in Quirrell is like almost like breastfeeding a baby where, you know, you say you are drinking milk and maybe the baby's allergic, the baby's could have a reaction kind of thing. So like
Right.
as much as it was Quirrell drinking the blood, or no, Voldemort did too, just himself, right? Or is that
Yeah.
just a movieism where he's like flying around?
That I believe that's movieism, but I
But-
do believe that Voldemort was drinking it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
So we
think
know
it's
that,
both
I
of
mean, and
them.
we know that he's willing to do anything to stay alive.
How'd that work? Here, lean back so I can get my mouth on the straw. Because he has no hands. He can't get it.
Oh boy. Also, finally, I wanted to point out that Nagini's venom, aside from the information we didn't even know until recently because of Crimes of Grindelwald with her being a maledictus, her venom is no ordinary snake venom. So if you remember Arthur Weasley's wounds in Order of the Phoenix, they couldn't close properly. They were dark magic. They were something different. Every time they would take his bandages off, he would start bleeding like mad. So there is something different for sure about her.
It's the blood curse.
It's
Yeah.
the blood curse.
Snake juice.
Snake juice. Ooh ha ha.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Love, right?
Nice.
Yeah.
Are you ready?
Yes.
Are we ready for the best part?
No.
So Frank is freaking out, dude. So he could hear those guys in there talking, and then he hears one guy, and then he hears the second man, aka Valda Baby, change his voice.
Baby.
He was hissing
Baby
and
Mort.
I'm sorry. He was hissing and spitting without drawing breath. Frank thought he must be having some sort of fit or seizure. And then I'm like, I think we can all agree that gross baby Valdi is speaking parcel tongue, especially because up next is Nagini making her way down the hall into the room. And I wish that Tiffany could listen to me say this part because it's so funny and I knew she was going to laugh. So it's a gigantic snake. Obviously, we know this. At least 12 feet long is what Frank is saying in his head. So I thought it'd be interesting to look up the size of some things for some context. So an average refrigerator is almost 6 foot tall, so it'd be 2 fridges. And then I also put that it's taller than 2 Danny DeVitos because he's 5'11". And I just thought that was funny.
Oh my God.
And then there's a picture on Pottermore of Voldemort's faithful companion. So we'll post that. So it's just a picture of Nagini. Yeah.
Those fangs.
Yeah. Nagini. Very pretty. Which I know some people are like, snakes, but. So his only option for escape was to go into the room with the 2 guys or stay and most likely be killed by the snake in the hallway. So the snake is level with him and keeps going towards the hissing and spitting sound. So Frank is truly scared.
What is he saying? Like,
Nagini, where are you? Nagini, where are you? Nagini, come to me. Sweetheart, I need some milk. Come, give me your milk. I'm thirsty. So his hand is trembling, and while he listens to the man make those strange sounds, he has an odd thought. And he literally goes, this man could talk to snakes. And I said, Frank, my good sir, you are correct. He can. So Frank wishes he was back in his bed with a hot water bottle, but his legs don't seem to be working. And suddenly, the man changes back into speaking English. So Valdi informs Wormtail that Nagini told Hermione to tell you that Seamus told me that Pavarti told Dean that there's an old muggle listening to every word in the hallway.
when I started reading along with you, I'll give you a high five. When I started reading along with you, I was like, when did she talk to Hermione? She wasn't here.
I just had to put it in because I was like,
I love it. I love it.
So Frank does have time to GTFO, but the door is opened fully. You missed my speech about how long the snake is. Nagini is about 12 feet long, which is taller than 2 Danny DeVitos on top of it.
Oh, I spit on my mic.
I'm sorry. But I was like, oh, you missed the best part. So he doesn't really have time to, leave. And the doors open fully. And you see a short, balding man with graying hair, a pointed nose, and small, watery eyes stood before Frank.
I thought you were talking about Danny DeVito for a second.
Oh my God. Danny DeVito.
So a mixture of fear and alarm on his face. And we're, again, still talking about Wormtail. So I bet you he went gray early because all he does is live in fear.
Honestly.
Ooh.
And so...
I'd feel bad for him if he wasn't such a jerk.
Yeah. So Wormtail is told to invite him into the room.
Where are your manners?
So we see that the cold voice is coming from the ancient armchair before the fire, but we can't see who's speaking yet. The snake, on the other hand, was curled up on the rotting hearth rug. Is that how you say that? Hearth rug. Like some horrible travesty of a pet dog.
I was just thinking about when the chair turns and what Frank sees. Is it like Voldemort with like a rattle in his hand? Like sucking on a passy?
It's probably green for Slytherin.
Oh my God. Made of a snake tail. The rattle is a rattle snake tail.
So Frank walks into the room with a firm grip on his walking stick.
Go, Frank!
I literally was like, yeah. I'm pretty sure in my book I was like, you go, Frank.
He would be a Gryffindor.
I was just thinking the exact same thing.
He would.
Definitely.
I literally wrote, go, Frank. Woo woo.
We love Mr. Flank.
So the only thing lighting up the room is the fire, and the man inside the armchair seemed to be even smaller than his servant. Frank couldn't even see the back of his head. And I also said, neither could Quirrell, but alas, Voldemort was there.
Oh my gosh.
I was on fire writing these notes, guys.
Perfect for this first episode of Hot Cup of
And then
Fire.
I was like, I'll read from Le Livre, which is French for the book.
You're
We're on fire with
so
these notes.
Fancy.
So it says, you heard everything, Muggle, said the cold voice. What's that you're calling me? Said Frank defiantly. For now that he was inside the room, now that the time had come for some sort of action, he felt braver. It had always, wow, words cannot come out of my mouth. It had always been so in the war.
Frank!
Frank! I'm calling you a Muggle, the voice said coolly. It means that you are not a wizard. I don't know what you mean by wizard, said Frank, his voice growing steadier. All I know is I've heard enough of it to interest the police tonight. I have. You've done murder. Sorry, it just sounds like you've done murder.
Voida.
And you're planning more. And I'll tell you this, he added with a sudden inspiration. My wife knows I'm up here, and if I don't come back, you have no wife, said the cold voice very quietly. Nobody knows you're here. You told no one that you were coming. Do not lie to Lord Voldemort, Muggle, for he knows. He always knows.
Don't
Is
talk
that-
to
He
doesn't have one, though.
person.
Is that Voldemort like reading his mind legitimately?
No one.
Yeah, that's what I would think.
Yeah.
Or he remembered
good
him
point.
from
Good point.
maybe
Oh, yeah, that could be true.
back in the day. Nobody but Katie got my joke.
It was good.
I wasn't listening to
Voldemort knows. He always knows. And I said, but he doesn't have one.
you. No, that's not funny. And he says, is that right? Said Frank roughly. Lord, is it? Well, I don't think
Sassy.
much of your manners, my lord. Turn round and face me like a man, why don't you?
The sass is real.
Ooh. Then he responds with, but I am not a man, Muggle, said the cold voice, barely audible now over the crackling of the flames. I am much, much more than a man. However, why not? I will face you. Wormtail, come turn my chair around. Also, I said, but are you, though? Like, are you a man?
He's a baby.
Yeah, baby. Yeah, baby. Winkle.
He's a baby, a bagel.
And so,
Wormtail.
then we see, so Voldemort's like, I'll be brave. I'll face Frank. And so I literally was like, go, Frank. I'm like, Frank's red hot with his courage. Get it? Frank's red hot?
Yes.
Oh my God.
Oh, I thought you were talking about red because Gryffindor. Frank's red hot.
Quite spicy.
There you go.
So Voldemort has Wormtail turn his chair around, who does so reluctantly because he's a scared little chicken.
I wouldn't want to look at that either.
Wormtail's always looking at him.
Yeah, he probably
Unless he
doesn't
closes
want
a
to do it
little
anymore.
Beady eyes. So then when Frank finally sees what is sitting in the chair, his walking stick fell to the floor with a clatter. And he rose such a ladder. Whatever.
Oh my God.
He
my
opened
God.
his mouth and let out a scream. He was screaming so loudly that he never heard the words that the thing in the chair spoke as it raised its wand. And then there was a flash of green light, and Frank Bryce was dead before he even hit the floor. And 200 miles away, Harry Potter woke with a start. Was it all just a horrible dream, or did this really happen?
First of all, bananas first chapter for a book. Great way to end it. 200 miles away is pretty close.
Death.
Megan.
Speaking of bananas,
They're a great source of potassium.
do we know what the words are that the thing in the chair said?
I assume Avada.
Vanilla banana.
What?
You're gonna say that.
What?
There's this thing on Facebook where this guy does a bunch of impressions, and instead of saying Avada Kedavra, he goes, vanilla banana.
It just flows nice.
It's really good.
Oh, vanilla banana.
I said, well, what does he look like, though?
A banana.
I think it's just what Harry saw under the bench.
Yeah.
He's supposed to
the
be like
in-between.
red and
Like a chicken
scaly
wing?
or something. I think
Yeah.
we find out at the end of this book.
Played.
Yes,
Oh my God.
Mold your chicken wing.
Yeah, no, that's what I think. Just same
I'm sad
thing.
nobody else thought that my vanilla banana thing was funny.
I
thought it was
don't know
funny.
what it's from.
Jessica
Watch it on Facebook.
Jessica in the chat wants us to think about a baby Voldy holding a full-size wand.
How long is Voldemort's wand?
Look that up.
I am. That'd be
it up. Look it up.
purely funny.
Okay. So I had this thought because I said to Tiffany when I first started this reread, and I was like, what I don't understand though, so Harry's having this dream, but if he has
I thought this.
Voldemort's bits in him, that's
No,
wrong.
no. That's please.
Like,
Please
wouldn't
stop.
he see it through Voldemort? So why does he have it from a different, like a third person point of view where he
Pause.
sees Frank, he sees Snake?
Pause that because next chapter I talk about things.
Oh, okay. Okay. I wondered the same thing though.
Well, fine, I won't have this conversation.
You
We
won't.
will
You'll
in
have
a
it
little
in
bit.
like 20 minutes.
Okay.
Okay. Voldemort's wand is 13 and a
Can
half
we-
inches. You.
Can we have a moment of silence for Frank?
Yes.
Oh, Frank.
That's not silent.
For a second, I was going to say, what if Newt named his Thunderbird after Frank? But Frank, I don't know. Maybe he was alive. There's no way.
Anyways,
but
I feel
just
like
think of
we
Frank.
should go.
Frank's Red Hot Sauce.
All right.
Frank, you were really
On a Frank.
All right.
Oh my
A
God.
ballpark Frank.
Hamburgers are ready. Would you like to ask some more questions?
What other questions? Do our listeners have any questions for us? I'm trying to think of what would be some good. So we all kind of answered what we think Voldy looks like.
Right.
Do you think he's naked or do you think he's clothed?
Clothed.
Do you think he can tell?
I think he's swaddled. Oh my God.
Do you
Like a
think that
baby.
he is incontinent of his urine and feces, or do you think
No,
he has
I think it's full on Wormtail has to wipe him.
that means yes, you think he's incontinent.
Oh, I didn't hear you. Sorry.
Do
My
they have to
bad.
buy diapers?
No.
Or do they
use a
magic it
cloth?
away?
Magic.
Oh, didn't we talk about
Scarify.
this? Exit o poopo.
Okay. I don't think that's what they would have said.
It is.
Now,
You don't know.
if you lived there and thought that house was haunted, would you spend a night in it?
No.
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 Yeah, I wouldn't either because I don't do scary things because
Yeah.
they're scary.
Yeah. Are they?
I don't handle scary things well. I need someone in my life to hold my hand when scary things happen. And right
I
now I have to
enjoy
hold my own
scary
hand.
things sometimes. Like Halloween Horror Nights at Orlando is fun once or twice a year, but
Not real scary though.
right, that's like I know that it's make believe scary.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's make believe scary.
Would you have participated in the gossip mill at the bar?
No, I'm
No.
very much a listener. I like to eavesdrop. So I would be like a silent listener in the back
Absorbing, but not contributing.
and probably judging those rude people talking about him.
I've noticed recently that I've been more and more gossipy and I've told myself I need to stop.
Oh, way to better yourself.
Yeah. I just noticed it and I was like,
Ooh, I don't like
Stop
that.
doing
yeah.
that.
Hi, Foz.
Smell the chicken, Fozzie.
You're not allowed to have any, sorry.
There are hamburgers upstairs, and I'm come to tell you to come on up.
God, you're so cute.
You do.
He smells like the burger.
Trying to think. Any other questions?
On a scale of 1 to 10, how excited are you for this book?
Like 9 3/4.
Damn, you stole my
Katie?
I'll say the same because I'm excited to jump into this book I haven't been in years.
I would say 4 because it's the 4th book.
All right. I am 100 million out of 10 because this is where we can start to make our little nice tying up bows.
Yep.
This is where we get dark.
I just have to say something that people are going to
can't
get mad
wait.
about. I don't think I'm going to like Hermione in this book.
You
She's
did-
already annoying me.
Okay.
I mean, also, I'm like kind of getting sad about Ron, and I just want to give him a hug.
I like Hermione in this book. I am not a fan of Ron in this book, and it makes me sad.
I can understand that. I think this is really when, I mean, they're 14. She's
Yeah.
going to be 15 soon in the book. So you see them struggling with their adolescence.
Right,
And
yeah.
there's a lot of things that when we get to the spew that can be said. And I think that's going to be
You guys
a
need to-
very deep discussion.
Show a little empathy for these characters. Just saying.
I like Hermione.
I don't
And
not
Ron.
like Hermione.
I love Ron. He just makes me sad in this book at times.
'Cause he's a naughty.
It reminds me of like our high school a little bit, how like he has that other group of friends that he goes to whenever he's mad at Harry.
Oh, yeah. Are you trying to say that's me?
No.
Because whenever I was fighting with like whoever my best friend was in high school, my other friend who I sort of talk to now, she'd be like, I like when you're fighting with them because that means you're going to hang out with me. And then I think she like instigated like fights. So I would hang out with her more.
That's nice.
Yeah.
So much
It's all right.
That's why I didn't hang out with girls.
I mean, I went to an all-girls school. I had no choice.
that would kill me.
I wasn't allowed to go. It sounds my parents are really strict. They weren't. The school I wanted to go to was just really far.
Oh, jeez.
And I was like, you don't even know where it's at. And I was like, yeah, I do. It's here. She's like, no, it's not. I was like, oh, fine. All right. What other things can we talk about? I'm really excited about, because I haven't read this book in a long time. So I'm excited about diving back in and learning. Because learning is fun. Knowledge is power.
Such a good book.
Connecting stuff like the stuff that you connected today. That's what I'm really excited for. Because I'm
that's
sure
gonna be a lot
there's
in this
little
book.
golden nuggets.
Yeah.
Golden
eggs.
eggs.
Wink, wink, wink. There's golden eggs in this book.
Get out.
No.
Gooses. Geeses.
Because we started getting those little nuggets in the last one, and then now it just keeps going. And
Yeah,
going and going and
everything's
going.
going to start to
I
build.
want to feast.
I want a bean feast. All right, let's go to the fan story. Fan
All
story.
right.
So,
Okay. So
Wait,
this-
hold on. Before you do, if you guys have any theories about
Yes,
Vivaldi
yes.
or any theories
Yeah.
pertaining to this chapter, because I feel like this, as much as it's a first chapter, there's a lot in it. So
Yes.
give
Very
us
juicy
your theories. Wah.
yeah.
Not fan story.
So this fan story, when it was sent to us a couple months ago, I want to say, it was specifically requested that we read it sometime during Goblet of Fire. But after reading it, I thought it would be the perfect one to kick off Goblet of Fire. So-
Except it's not the Goblet of Fire.
The Hot Cup of Fire.
cup of fire.
Right. So this one comes from Sierra Bell. So she says, just a few Pottermore details about myself. I'm a Slytherin.
Woo, woo, woo.
My Patronus is a white mare. That was your first, wasn't it?
No, it was a black stallion.
But
How many Patronuses have you had?
Lots.
My Patronus is currently a fox because I said so.
Oh my god.
Please continue.
And my wand is redwood with unicorn hair. Now that that's out of the way, onto my Potter story. I grew up reading Harry Potter like many of you. I came across
Nothing.
I came across the Sorcerer's Stone in 5th grade in my teacher's classroom library. I attempted to check this book out every week, but she forced me to share with my classmates. I was infatuated with the story, and I was afraid my parents wouldn't buy a book about witchcraft, so I stole the book at the end of the year and spent the summer reading it over and over. Blame the Slytherin in me.
Yes.
I finally managed to convince my dad, who was an avid reader, to buy the next book in the series after he saw how in love I was with this book. Although I could never get him to read the series, he would ask me about each chapter, so it was as if he read them along with me. As each movie came out, my dad took me to the theaters to see each one and bought them when they were released on DVD. My absolute favorite Harry Potter book is The Goblet of Fire. I remember going to the library when they ordered 300 copies of the book and waiting in line with elementary kids. I was in middle school. I was sorted into Slytherin, and there was a magic show, and my mom stood off to the side telling the other parents, my child is the big one over there. I finished Goblet of Fire in 2 days. It was the longest book I had ever read, and I could not put it down. I trudged into school on Monday, exhausted but giddy, with excitement to talk to my classmates about the book. One of my favorite Potter memories was reading Half-Blood Prince. When Dumbledore died, I threw the book down and ran to my dad, climbed in his lap, and bawled like a baby. Instead of laughing at me, he held me and said, Harry will find a way. It will be okay.
Oh my God. I just got chills.
I know.
Makes me want to
that's
cry
so
a little bit,
cute.
so I'm going to try
I know.
not thinking about it.
Fast forward to my senior year of high school, and Deathly Hallows was released the day after graduation. I begged my dad to let me go to a midnight release for the book, but he didn't want me to go alone. My dad unhooked from his dialysis machine and drove me to Walmart at midnight to buy the book for me as a graduation present, and I was hooked. But before I left for college, my dad took me shopping for my dorm room and surprised me by taking me to see The Order of the Phoenix. It was the absolute best daddy-daughter date ever. In April of 2013, my dad was getting work done to get a kidney transplant. However, when he had his colonoscopy done, the doctor did not close him up properly after removing some polyps, and he had lost a vast amount of blood. After being rushed to the hospital, he coded and fell into a coma. I sat in the hospital for the week next to his bed, rereading Goblet of Fire. I sat reading it to him while he was in a coma, partially to calm my nerves, but also I needed him to read one book, and I thought this was my last chance for me to share the Wizarding World with him. On April 24th, 2013, my best friend died. My dad was gone, and I was lost. Over the years, I reread the series multiple times, but I could never bring myself to read Goblet of Fire. I skipped from Prisoners to Order of the Phoenix. I couldn't bear opening my favorite book because it brought back such pain. I stumbled across this podcast on accident, and I must say that I am an absolute fan. I love the insight, your personalities, and now I am reading the series to my mini Swisher, and we listen to your podcast on our commute to and from school. I'm thrilled to be in this world of Swishers and hearing the impact that Harry Potter has had on so many people. By listening to your podcast, I picked up Goblet of Fire, and though I cried through most of it, I'm going to cry.
Oh, keep going. You're doing good.
I just wanted to say thank you for empowering me to pick up my favorite Harry Potter book again. I forgot how amazing the story was and how awful the movie is, and I am really looking forward to hearing your insight on this book. Thank you, ladies, so much, and please keep up the great work.
Holy mackerel.
Yeah.
One, thank you for your story. Two, I won't. We're incredibly sorry for your loss.
Yes.
But one thing that I'm really happy that you could do was, even though it was a struggle for you to get through that book, maybe now when you read Goblet, you can just
I know, we're all like crying over here.
think of all your good memories with your dad. I have to stop talking. Somebody else talk.
Woo. Yeah, honestly, I mean, super brave of you to pick that back up and to go through it. And the fact that you did that after finding us is crazy.
Yeah.
But that was inside you all along. I'm glad you found it.
Yeah.
And I think that was, your dad through you too.
I hope these episodes can be happy ones for you. Like, I
Yes.
hope us doing this and the laughter and nuttiness that we bring, I hope that can
Bring some joy to this
Yeah.
book again.
like
for you.
Yes.
like have you have a new relationship with this book.
Yeah.
Like, have your old loving memories come back, and also, find some peace with it again.
Yeah, I agree.
Boy,
Thank you for your story.
Thank you
so much.
It's very powerful. And again, you're so brave.
yes.
You're so brave for being a Slytherin.
You make it sound like Slytherins can't be brave.
They can be. It's just not their number one quality.
Quality.
Also, I love that you stole the book. I mean,
That's pretty awesome.
Literally
That's amazing.
something I would have done. Shout out to Slytherins.
Oh my gosh.
All right.
All right.
So Swish and Flick podcast can be found on all the different social media channels. We are Swish and Flick podcast on Facebook, Swish Flickcast on Twitter and Instagram. Also make sure you head on over to YouTube and subscribe, because not only are our podcasts posted there, but vlogs are as well, including puff pastry.
You make it sound like it's going to become a thing, and we don't know.
we're hoping.
People are
If
going to
you guys
expect more
want
videos.
it to be a thing, it'll be a thing.
Wow, it might just be Katie.
puff pastries doesn't have to be 2 puffs. It just has to be a puff.
Okay.
So
And I am a puff.
you can also join us on Patreon for exclusive access to the Felix Files, a chance to be a guest on the Felix Files, and join us on our monthly Zoom chats. So head on over to patreon.com/SwishFlickcast and choose your support level. Thank you so much to all of our current patrons. You make the podcast possible, so thank you. Lastly, check out our website, swishflickcast.com, to check out all the info on Swish and Flick compiled into one place, along with all of our merchandise.
All right. I also want to let you guys know, if you have a Potter story, send it to us. Any which way. You could also do swishflickcast@gmail.com. That's probably the best way to get it to Katie, because she's the one that keeps track of all of them.
They are easily organized on our email.
Yeah.
So if you have sent us one like a super long time ago and you still haven't heard it and you didn't send it to us in the email, resend it to our email, because it's just easier to compile them.
If you could also say this is a resend, so that if I do, because I do filter through those messages, it's just not as often as the email.
Yeah.
So just tell me so that I know, like, to
check.
mark you down or something,
Yeah.
so that I don't read it twice.
Also, it's easier that way too, like, because if I see an email that says my Potter story, I won't even click on it, so Katie will see it.
Yeah.
I'm the only
Where-
one that, like, pretty much reads them beforehand.
Yeah, we all like to be surprised.
Yeah.
Yes. So that's probably the easiest way. Swishflickcast@gmail.com.
Woohoo!
Yes.
All right.
What's going on in your life, Tiffany, this week?
I have a 3-day weekend. Happy Veterans Day, veterans. This is a week old.
We appreciate
Thank
you.
you.
Yes.
We love you. That's it.
So Katie and I have a bunch of fun projects going on. We still have Grown Up Kids, our Disney podcast. It comes out every Sunday. However, December might be a little bit different, so look out for that.
Stay tuned.
Also, we have our trip vlogs going live on our YouTube channel, Main Street 9 3/4, along with special Harry Potter specific tidbits coming to the Swish and Flick YouTube page. So be on the lookout for that. Katie?
If you want some cool stuff for your room, go to Akio Designs at Etsy. We designed some cool stuff. And yeah.
And my mom's scarves and blankets are on it.
Yes. We call it Molly's Corner.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, you guys are cute. I have nothing going on in my life as usual, trying to figure out what I want to be when I grow up, and traveling. So that's about it. I'll be in New York next week. Whoop, 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 whoop.
So will I.
It's also crazy that it's
so
like 2
soon.
weeks. Yeah. I feel like I'm very unprepared.
Me too.
I'm also really sad that I have to work on Thanksgiving, and I'm trying really hard not to think about it because it's one of my favorite holidays.
Technically, we're supposed to work on Friday. I'm hoping they don't make us.
Okay.
So we'll figure that one out. Yep.
Well, either way, you won't be there.
Yep.
It'll be fine.
We're on the road again.
Well, this was a great kickoff to a new book, and I'm excited to talk about it and dissect it and share it with all of you.
Yeah.
Same.
Same.
Sarah, that's pretty.
Get out.
Okay, bye.
So that concludes this week's episode. Thank you so much for listening, and don't let the muggles get you down.
Amazing! Just my voice!
Are you ready? Here we go. Guys, welcome to Goblet.
I don't know what that is.
Welcome to Goblet.
You mean Hot Cup of Fire?
Welcome to Hot. What?
Boop, boop, boop. Boop, boop.
Yeah, we didn't actually listen to ourselves.
Oh, yeah,
Boop,
you
boop,
need to
boop,
listen. Everybody say something.
Something.
Hello and welcome to... Oh, there's no episode number.
Sorry.
68?
Yes, it's up at the top.
Hello and welcome to episode 68. Hello and welcome to episode 68 of Swish and Flick. I'm not myself. What's wrong with me?
Are we going to start over?
Yes.
Well, I was laughing because like you're talking and you paused and then you could just hear Fozzie going.